What in the world is that? Got a brand new scooter here today. This is the E-TWOW Tank Torq. It's got a lot of really cool features. They've got an app that I'm gonna have to show you and show you some of the settings and things they can do. I'm gonna jump to the side and show you something that might seem slightly off topic, which is the Naxion. The reason I point this out is the Naxion is super high tech. It's like a Tesla on two wheels. It's got an app, it's got a touchscreen, it's got all this cool stuff. Over-the-air updates. Now, if you've seen that video, that's gonna help to explain the E-TWOW, because this also has some of those same features. They're kind of doing that same thing, but with a scooter. So this can also do over-the-air updates. So if they've got firmware updates, things like that, you don't have to download anything, plug anything in. It can do it over the air, which is pretty cool. That's not something I've seen on any scooters yet. So let's turn this guy on. Power button right here. I must have locked it. There is a key fob. There we go. Push the unlock button. So here's the display, kind of all integrated into the handlebars. Got a park setting, eco mode, drive mode, and sport mode. I like that it shows the estimated range that's left on the screen. I think that's pretty cool. Of course, a light button. We've got a low beam and a high beam. It's actually pretty bright. I think that's actually gonna be a nice usable headlight. We're running hydraulic disc brakes down here. Use the Nut brand. They're using these brake pads that have the little heat sinks on them to keep them cool. Now these rotors might seem small, but this thing has some pretty advanced regenerative braking. It has multiple settings. They actually call it a KERS system. So these are not off-the-shelf components you see on other scooters. They have basically done everything from scratch to make this its own unique, more high-tech scooter. These are 10-inch tires and wheels. These are tubeless, and it is a full suspension scooter. You can't even see the suspension. You gotta get way underneath there. The coil-over shock is hidden underneath. Everything is super integrated and sleek. In fact, when I went to do the dyno run, I couldn't even find where the front motor cable plug was, and I didn't want to tear the thing apart. We'll get to that a little bit later. I did test this on the dyno and verify the power. This is supposed to be a 1,000 rear hub motor and a 1,000 watt front hub motor. The battery is a 60 volt setup, 67 volts maximum. Comes with a 4 amp charger, has a nice little waterproof cover for the plug. And they have an optional 8 amp charger if you want to charge twice as fast. Now, if I open up the app here, we can connect. There you can see my battery is at 98%. Trip meter is at 1/4 mile. We're gonna add to that. I can turn off the lights from the app. I can lock the scooter from the app. We can hit record ride. Hey, we might as well do that. And then I assume this is gonna record what streets and everything I go on. That's kind of cool. Oh, we have a daytime and a nighttime mode. And there's some other cool fancy stuff built into this. It's got gyroscopes and all sorts of things that we're gonna talk about as I ride. Super bright turn signals, both on the front and on the rear. It has a horn, which is kind of like a loud beep. If we press the E button right here, that's the energy recovery system. So we can set that to 1, 2, or 3. There we go, we gotta hold it. Or 0, actually, so I guess we can have that totally off. I guess I'm gonna put it at 1, that's the weakest, I think, and then we'll try and turn that up and see how that changes. The S button changes from trip meter, range, odometer. I'm curious to see how the range goes down. I do still need to figure out how to change this from kilometers. That should be on the app here somewhere, I would think. I know I saw something about changing it from metric to imperial in here somewhere. Okay, well, I know it's in here. I'm not finding it right at the moment. So it's gonna be in kilometers for right now. We're not gonna worry about that too much. And if you just happen to be wondering why you're not seeing my face as much on camera today, it's because I am using this camera setup. So I'm using a Cali Invader full face helmet because I think that's safer. as scooters get faster and faster. Also, I've noticed that if I put a selfie stick on the handlebars here somewhere and have it extended out, I have a tendency to get a speed wobble on scooters. So I decided I needed a new camera setup, and this is it. So Kali Invader, I've got the Insta360 camera mounted up front here. And then this mount is actually one that I designed and 3D printed specifically for the Invader helmet. It can fit both the Insta360 as well as GoPros. And I'm probably gonna put these for sale on my website. Maybe I'll do that before I release this video. I'm gonna put some gloves on because it is a little chilly out today. There we go. It's a twist throttle, so I shouldn't have any trouble operating that throttle like this. Now let's put this into eco mode. Oh, there's a park setting. There we go. Now we're not in park. Back to eco. Suspension-wise, feels quite nice. Can we see the reflection in the window over here? Like, real cushy. I mean, I can get it to bottom out if I jump on it, but it feels pretty nice. The suspension also has some adjustment to it. All right, here we go. So that was not bad for eco mode. One thing I thought was interesting, a lot of scooters that are dual motors, you've got the option to run just the front motor, rear motor. Some of them you can just pick one or two, so it's either run in the rear or both. Some of them you can pick rear motor, both motor, front motor. This one is just both motors all the time, as far as I can tell. Ooh. Okay, so this start from a stop is it's a soft start, but I'm still in eco mode. Speedometer's still in kilometers, so it's not slow. Some scooters are a little jumpy off the line. This one is very controllable, very smooth. I like that about it. I do feel like I wish the braking was a little firmer, so let's turn the energy recovery system up to 2. Also, it might not be doing much right now, probably because the battery's too full now that I think about it. I think I read in the manual that if it's above like 90%, then it can't actually be usable, which makes perfect sense because you don't want to overcharge the battery. So you gotta wait till it drains down a little. I suppose technically you can see my face with this camera view, but it's gonna be a little close. We'll keep it facing forward. Let's power up to drive. So I'm keeping up with the downtown traffic, and I'm just in drive mode. So I mentioned that this thing has a gyroscope in it, and you might be wondering, why in the world would you need a gyroscope on a scooter? And I have not. I'm getting pretty comfortable on this. Oh no, not park. Don't do that. Sport mode. Sport mode. I have not really tested this out, so I'm going to do that and see if I can feel it. But what they've done is made it so this can detect how steep a hill is and if you're going up or down, if I'm understanding correctly. So it kind of controls the power differently when you're going up and down a hill. So I'm very interested to see what this does. All right, so this is sport mode. This is everything it's got. This is uphill. Suspension still feels great. Like I feel like I go airborne with this thing and it's just gonna keep tracking straight. I'm actually quite liking the ride. Some scooters feel like so twitchy or unstable as you get up to speed, and I haven't felt any speeds on this one yet that I feel uncomfortable. Let's use the turn signal. We're gonna go this way. Whoa! Zipping through traffic. Oh, we're gonna make that light, sort of. All right, so here's a really steep hill. This is a good one to test this out. So we've got uphill, almost maintaining 40 kilometers an hour. It's kind of touching back and forth between 39 and 41. So whatever that conversion is, I'll put that up on screen because I can't do it in my head. That's not bad. Ooh. Let's see how we maintain traction. There's a lot of pine needles. I was just about to say that so far, like sometimes dual motors, you get a lot of front wheel slip, and I hadn't felt that at all. Seems like they balanced the front to rear wheel bias quite nicely. I got a tiny bit right there in those pine needles, which is not a surprise. All right, kind of bend our knees a little bit here. What in the world is that? Was that a scrawny baby coyote? That thing looked unhealthy, whatever it was. They must have smoothed out the bumps on this trail, because I didn't feel any. That or the suspension's just that good. Let's cross over and hit the dirt a little bit instead. This thing really has like street tires on it. I must be wearing the battery down for the KERS system to work, because that braking felt really good right there. That was definitely motor slowing me down and not the disc brakes. But let's see how this does a little bit of light off-road. So far, it is feeling, I don't want to say better than expected, because when I first hopped on it, it was feeling really good. But yeah, I mean, from a glance, this thing looks like it's a street scooter, but the suspension feels dialed. If I had some off-road tires on this actually would be a good little off-road machine. But I don't think that's what they were going for. I don't normally like grade things, but I feel like I should. I feel like I need to grade the suspension and just give this thing an A+. This is, I guess the best thing I can compare it to is a nice, plush, full suspension mountain bike. Like, this smooths out the bumps better than a lot of full suspension e-bikes I've ridden. And that's saying something. Especially when I would not consider myself to be a scooter rider. Like, I'm way more comfortable on a bike. Okay, I'm feeling like I could use a little more braking now down these hills. So I'm gonna turn the energy recovery up to 3. Oh, there we go. That's the braking we wanted. So the suspension is adjustable. You can adjust the rebound a little bit. So after doing all of that, probably the only change I would make is tighten it up just a hair. Put our turn signal on. This thing is fun. So you'll notice I'm using the throttle right from a stop. That is an option. You can have it set to where you need to kick off to get going as well. I don't know why you'd want it to be that way, so I changed that right away. Power-wise, I'm really happy with how this thing is scooting along. Whoa, it's a little slick right here, it's a little wet. But let's interrupt this part of the ride with the dyno run. So what I should have here is a 1,000-watt hub motor, a second 1,000-watt hub motor, and normally on scooters, I turn the front motor off while I test the rear motor, or at least unplug it. The cable is really well hidden, and I can't figure out any way to turn one of the motors off. It seems like this scooter is just always running both motors. So we've rigged it up so the front wheel is off the ground. That hopefully solves that problem. And then you also kind of have to do a little bit of a kickoff. There might be a way in the settings to change that. Oh, there's a setting for that. Sweet. Still, just keep an eye on that. And look, make sure it doesn't like start creeping that way and I'm gonna go shooting off somewhere. So I got both motors on, but remember we're only testing the power of the rear motor, then we'll double it. That's what we put on the board. So this thing has a few different modes, Eco, Drive, and Sport. I've got it in Sport. And so I'm gonna give it full throttle and hope this doesn't come loose. 3, 2, 1. One thing I did notice right off the bat is that the maximum speed on the dyno said like 29 something miles an hour. Unfortunately, that's not a great sign for one of their advertising claims, which is a top speed of 31 miles an hour, because if it can't do more than 30 or 30 on the dyno, there's just zero chance it can do it actually on the road. So top speed's probably high 20s. Every time. Bring this a little bit closer. All right, numbers are coming up on screen any second here. All right, I got 1,024 watts, 25.51 pound-feet of torque. Those aren't bad. They advertised 1,000 watts per motor. That's basically exactly what it's getting. Let's double those numbers. So basically we're gonna be at 51 pound-feet and 2,048 watts. Let's see how that compares to other scooters on the board. E-TWOW. There's the official power numbers. So here's the scooters I have up here right now. So the Richter S9 is gonna move down to the very bottom of the list. Well, it already was in the bottom. It is gonna pass up the awesome Leopard because that one was a single motor. Surprisingly, had a little more torque in just that single motor. And then the E-TWOW is gonna come in right here. It's gonna put it in second place for now. I'm gonna have to leave some room because honestly, I have a lot of other scooters that are probably gonna go up here, but 51 pound-feet has actually a lot of torque, 2,048 watts. If we compare that to some of the bikes I have dyno tested, let's see, we have, this was a dual motor bike. All of these have way less than that. The Unicycle was 47 pound-feet. That was a very torquey bike, but only 1,200 watts. So this kind of puts it up in the realm of things close to the Bike Tricks XD, the LMX 64. It's just slightly less power and torque than those. And those are insanely powerful and fast bikes. So hopefully that puts it into perspective a bit. But I would say their advertising for wattage is right on point. Speed limit looks like they're a little bit overestimating. So those are good torque numbers. That's enough that this thing can basically haul you up any hill without any trouble. I think that hill right there is really stinking steep. Let's see if we can go up this dirt section. It's probably gonna be a little slippery. Oh, it's very slippery. Whoa, we're burning rubber. It's got the power, it's just a matter of traction. Still says I got 62 kilometers of range left. This is a 60 volt battery and it's about 1.2 kilowatt hours. If I had to just make a guesstimate, you know what? I think, look at this. This is hands off. I'm not braking, and this is actually slowing me down the hill to a nice, reasonable speed. So I think that's the gyro system in action right there. Let's go back down Hughes Road. This is a really steep hill. How fast will it go? Oh, that's disappointing. It's electronically limiting me to this speed. It will not go faster. All right, I know there's a few specs I probably mentioned, which is why I have a sticky note in my pocket, so I don't forget anything. I picked up some leaves. So I gotta say, 2,000 watts is perfect. And what I mean by that is it's enough power that this can go up anything without any trouble, but it's also not so much that it is scary or terrifying. I feel like I can hit full throttle on this thing and I'm never afraid that I'm gonna kill myself. That's right, I took a picture of said sticky note. So this is the E-TWOW Tank Torq. Now that I've actually gone on a proper ride with it, thoroughly impressed. I have found no faults with it. And I try genuinely to find things wrong, but from a riding perspective, from a quality perspective, picked up some more grass and junk, everything's great. The only thing I would change is if you were actually gonna do regular off-roading like I just did, which clearly is not how they set it up, you probably would want some tires with some more aggressive tread. But that's something that's easy enough to do, and it looks like it's got a little bit of clearance. You could put something more aggressive on there if you wanted to. But they do in fact have an off-road tire option. So all this off-roading I was doing, turns out could have been even better, and they had already thought of it. I just didn't know. Now, battery size, I said about 1.2 kilowatt hours. It is a 60 volt, 21 amp hour to be exact. And that is pretty darn big. I would say, I don't know what they rate this thing for, but 50, 60 miles probably would not be out of the question. I think that's totally doable. Now, top speed, slight discrepancy there. They said 31 miles an hour. Hello.
Do you work here?
Yeah.
Keeping your eye on that older gentleman. Looks like he was trying out a bike and almost hit cars.
Uh-oh. I think she was talking about Blake. 31 miles an hour is what they said this thing should do based on my dyno, which is very, very accurate. It can't quite go that fast, but it's close, and personally, it's fast enough. Weight-wise, I said it felt pretty light. It is 75 pounds. Very nimble, very great maneuverability. And I did feel like I could still lift it around and turn around without too much trouble. Now, for something you're gonna use all the time and you want to be reliable, you want it to be somewhat weather resistant, and they were serious about that. It has an IPX6 rating, which means you could ride this thing in the rain, commute with it every single day, not gonna be a problem. Now, final thing I gotta talk about is price. Now, if there's one flaw about the bike, I said I could find no flaws in it mechanically or riding it, but if there is one flaw, it's that I don't actually have the retail price for you. Now I have to interrupt for just a moment because although I didn't have a price originally, I do now, before the video came out, thankfully. The retail price for the scooter is going to be $2,490. Hey, Blake, there's no customers out test riding right now, right?
No customers test riding, no. Why?
This lady came out of the scan place next door, and she was kind of looking at me funny, but I was talking to myself in front of a scooter, so I can't blame her too much for that.
Okay.
But then she's like, do you work here? And I said, yeah. Like, can I help you with something? She's like, well, just watch that older gentleman that's test riding the bike. He almost crashed into a car over there.
Older gentleman?
So apparently you're an older gentleman and you almost crashed into a car. Okay. I was like, I just saw Blake go out.
Yeah, no, it's...
I'm pretty sure he didn't almost crash into a car. So that's my guess, somewhere in the 50, and here's my opinion on that price, having used the scooter for a little bit. If you want quality, if you want like some of those fancy features like over-the-air updates and some of the app functions and their cool energy recovery system, which is more than just your standard regen braking, and I like that it's adjustable on the fly, then you'd probably be really happy with this. Let me show you a little bit more about the app here. So you have kind of like a social side where you can post pictures of your scooter and scooter rides. There's a product section where you can look at the products they have. But if we go to connect, that's where we can see everything about this particular scooter. 34.2 miles is the estimated range left. I've got a trip meter, odometer. You can see I put 9.5 miles on them so far. There's the record ride button, which can record where I've been and create a map of that, which I think is kind of cool. We can reset trip. And right here, we can change the settings. Now, anything we do on the screen here is going to happen on the scooter itself. So if I put it into the walk mode, you can see it happening on the screen in real time. Drive, sport. This is the option. So you have to like kick off with the scooter. This will turn the light on and off. There's a headlight, high beam and low beam. We can also lock. I guess, I don't know why you'd need this, but you can even turn on the signals from the app here. You can change the braking settings, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now, something to mention is that if you have it on 0, you're not getting any of the energy recovery. Level 1, you're getting a little. Level 2, you're getting more. Level 3, you're getting the most. But also in level 3, it will automatically regen when you let off of the throttle, and it doesn't in the lower settings. And you can change it to miles per hour. Didn't figure that out until I was done writing. Use the S button. That changes the odometer, trip, range. But if you see, you hold it there for a second, changes it back and forth. Now, as far as availability, these probably aren't gonna quite make it in time for the Christmas holiday season, but the first shipment of these are coming into the US. They're gonna have a warehouse in Southern California. That's gonna be around the end of December. So you should start seeing these pop up for sale very soon. There are other scooters you can buy on the market for around that same ballpark that probably have a little more power, that might have a little more top speed than this. However, once you start going more than 30 miles an hour on a scooter, things do start getting kind of sketchy and scary. So many of you may decide this is more than enough power. That's why I said it's like almost like the perfect amount of power, unless you're just completely power hungry and you want the absolute fastest scooter. This one is a good balance between quality, power, and ultimately, I think, price as well. So thank you to E-TWOW for sending me the Tank Torq. This is one of my favorite scooters I've ridden so far. I think you guys have nailed it on the quality, and I'm happy that I got to test it out for you. I'll go ahead and put a link to E-TWOW's website in the description of the video where you can find some more information on these and find where you can buy one.